And, you know, at the age of 18, when you haven't really been exposed to the real world, like I said, I lived a very sheltered life, that was a huge decision for me to make. I still thought I kind of loved the baby's dad, and, you know, my parents were one hand offering me dangling over here, like, if you don't go back with that guy, we'll pay for your college, and we'll give you a car, and, you know, we'll set you up in a place, and just don't go back to him, you know. And at 18, I had to make the decision that was against my parents, which they were not very happy about. I said, you know, I kind of did this myself, you know, whether I was, you know, young and immature, but I did this on my own, and I wanted to really have that child know that A, I wanted it, and two, that I was going to make it on my own. So I actually went back to the baby's dad to try to just say that, so that my child can always say, you know what, my mom just didn't split. She did try to make it work with my dad, but it just didn't. So I did go back with them. I went back to the same high school that I was at. I was in my senior year. Was walking around the senior year with a big belly. Everybody used to like kind of just rub my belly for like when they took a test for good luck, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Like I was like baby Buddha, you know, like and things like that. But you know, that's what I did. And I had my son 7 days after I turned 18, and so he was my birthday present. And I had him at 18 in February, early February, and that May I went to my prom, you know, with big kazumas that I had, filled with milk, because I was still breastfeeding. And in that June, I graduated high school. And that August, I enrolled in community college. And I did that because I really didn't want anyone to ever tell me, you know what, Joscelyn, you screwed up, you had a kid at a young age, now what are you going to do with your life? I wanted people to know that even though I did this and whatever happened, I took full responsibility for it. This child depended on me. Now it wasn't just about me, it was about someone else that really needed my help and someone else who was counting on me. And you know, I went through this whole entire phase with my son, and he's 13 now, and it still is that way, you know, where we were like growing up together, you know. I would carry him on my arm. I thought it was like a handbag, you know, like, oh, look at my baby, you know, and me, we're just so cute, you know. I mean, we went through the whole entire thing like that. You go through all these different extremes when you're a single mom. And the one thing that I didn't realize was that people kind of do look at you differently. Whereas, you know, I used to sing in the church choir and all these things. Now people looked at me like I had the plague, you know, like I was this teen mom, you know. And it was really difficult because I wasn't used to be putting in that position where people like kind of might have had like a negative reaction because I was a young mom. And when you went to school, you know, even at school, at the community college, where they see that you are trying to do the right thing, you're getting a job, you're trying to go forward with your education, they still were not helpful, you know. And that's when I really realized that if I didn't make it myself feel important, if I didn't really say to myself, you know what, no matter what anybody else says, I'm going to go forward, then no one's going to do it for you. You have to have that within yourself. You've got to look at that child and say, you know what, it's me and you in this world. We're going to go forward. We're going to make it happen regardless of what anyone says. For example, when I went to the community college, you know, they said, okay, fill out these forms, you know, pick what you want to do. And no one really said that, hey, there was a FAFSA form out there for financial aid, you know, that if you have a child, you're considered an adult, and basically the government will pay for your college education, that there are opportunities like grants and loans, grants that you don't have to pay back. You know, those are loans that you don't have to pay back to the school or to the government to pay for your education, work study programs. No one explained any of those things to me. I had to find it out on my own because the college at that time were not, you know, so happy, even it was community college, that, you know, a young mom. The statistic was that if it was a young mom in there, by the time the first semester was over, she would be gone. You know, she would be dropped out. You know, so they weren't really eager when they saw another young mom, you know, coming to the school. But, you know, if you have it within you that you really want to better yourself, you can do it. There's so much information. And now, you know, 13 years later, so much information on the web. But even the FAFSA, I mean, I always say, like to young moms, I said, you know, don't look at your child as this disadvantage. This is your advantage. This is your child. You want to go forward with life, then you know what? Go ahead and do the best you can. And know that because you are a mom, you are going to make it. You have someone depending on you. When I went to college and I was going to the community college, the first thing, you know, I said is I need to go to night school. Didn't want to go to the day because I wanted to be with my son during the day. And, you know, the professors looked at me like, you're taking, I was in that time, I graduated in law, but that time they were looking at me, you want to take how many legal courses, and and they were kind of negative. I mean, you're going to get that kind of negative feedback. You want to take how many legal courses, and you want to do this at night, that's what you're going to get. So you really do have to kind of toughen yourself in that sense. But I really wanted to do this. That was something I was passionate about, so I took a lot of night classes. Then the online courses started to happen, which was really great because you could still stay at home, you didn't have to look for a babysitter, and you could still take your classes. And I think one of the things that people just don't tell teen moms a lot is that, this is a tough time that you're going through, and you might need support, you might need financial support, you might need government assistance, but this is not gonna be your life forever. Things will change, things will get better. The fact that if maybe you might have to get, food stamps, or you might have to get WIC, or you might have to do whatever, that's fine, because you know what, you're handling your business. You're doing what you have to do for your child at that time. And it's not always going to be that way, but that's the way it was in the beginning. And I did what I had to do for my son. My parents were really, really supportive, but I didn't want them to rely on just like mom and dad take care of the baby, So it was a struggle there too with my parents because they really wanted to help, but I wanted to do this a lot on my own. By the time I was 21, I ended up working as a public relations. I already had graduated community college, and I was going on to get my bachelor's, and I was applying for jobs, and the one thing I always knew was that I had been working since I was 14. So I knew what it was to come into a job interview, to be, have a resume, to look professional. But one thing I didn't always right away say is like, oh, well, I'm applying for this job, but I just want to let you know up front, I have a baby. I never did that because I felt like I didn't want them already to be looking at me like I was at some disadvantage because I had a child. I looked at it like I wanted them to value me based on who I was. It wasn't their business what I had at home or what I didn't have at home. So I went there and they hired me based on myself. And that's one thing that you should, I think it's just important for teen girls to know, because once they find out that you do after they might even hire you and everything, they find out that you do have a kid, they're going to be even that much more amazed by you, that you've been able to come on to work on time, that you've been able to feed that kid before 7 o'clock in the morning, take them off to the babysitter, now go drive to work and be there on time at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then they find out that you have a kid and now they're shocked. But if you would have came into the interview, the first thing out of your mouth was, I have a kid, it gives just a negative impression to employers. And I